high school track and field right now is not what it used to be. In the past, it used to be about winning state championships. But at the present moment, we've got major invitationals like the Virginia Showcase, and national records are falling. Almost every week it seems like. So when the new Balance Indoor Grand Prix went off, although it was a professional event, technically, some of the best high school athletes in the nation, or for that matter the entire world, were also going to show up to compete, which is why I definitely had to pay attention. You probably already know by now what Quincy Wilson pulled off in the men's 400-meter dash. He simply went out there with professionals, like Jareem Richards of Trinidad, who got 4th in the Olympics for that same event, and is also a world indoor champion, and simply beat everybody who was on the starting line, which is exactly why Quincy Wilson is the only 99 overall rating in his recruiting class. Because if you actually are a 5-star recruit, at least on my list, you should be able to mix it up with the pros and show that you belong, which is exactly what he did. But to be very clear, he was not the only high school athlete to show up on the track at New Balance. So here is what really happened at the Indoor Grand Prix, specifically if you're a high school recruit who wants to prove that you are the best of the best. And the only way to do that is you are going to have to go out there and beat the best, which is exactly what they gave us on the track this past weekend. It all starts on the girls' side, where Paige Sheppard from the class of 2027 simply went out there and won the Junior Invitational Mile. But you have to understand why that's a big deal. I just told you, she's in the class of 2027, and in the field of women that she beat, right behind her were 2 girls from the class of 2025. Both of them are 5-star recruits. Hannah Thompson is a Stanford commit, and Sophia Bende is headed to Texas A&M. Either way, Paige Sheppard figured out how to get to the line ahead of both of them. Heading into this season, Paige Sheppard was a 4-star recruit on my list, and ranked number 2 overall in her class. But that was then, and this is now. After winning her event at the Virginia Showcase, and now coming to New Balance to win against this field, considering everything we have to go off of for the class of 2027 up until this moment, I guess you gotta call her the top recruit in that class. Admittedly, it's incredibly hard to become a 5-star on my list, but it's almost a foregone conclusion that will be added to her name by the end of the outdoor season. But in case you weren't paying attention, the action did not stop there, because Sadie Engelhardt from the class of 2025 and a 5-star recruit, the number 1 recruit in her class, proved exactly why she has that status. She was invited to compete in the women's race, where she ran substantially faster than any of the girls did in their race. So much so that she finished 7th overall, 1 spot ahead of Maya Ramsden, who also ran for Harvard and was the NCAA champion, both indoors and outdoors in the mile, sweeping it last season in 2024. So if you really want to understand what types of performances will make you a 5-star recruit on my list, now you have your answer, because Sadie Engelhardt clearly figured it out. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. The action on the boys' side also gave us a lot to pay attention to. That said, I'm not going to get into the Quincy Wilson situation, because I've already shared my thoughts on that and there's no need to go back on it now. But there was also a junior boys mile, with a whole bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits competing in it. When the dust settled, Elliot Vermeulen of Belgium became the winner, because that particular invitational was an international mile. There were only 2 international athletes actually in the field from what I could tell, but he was one of them, and he was in the front of the race by the time they got to the line. I have no idea whether he will or will not compete in the NCAA going forward, but the only thing that actually matters is even if it isn't him, it'll be somebody else. A bunch of athletes from around the world who will be competing for national titles in a college uniform, even though you've never seen them on a high school track. Keep in mind that Owen Powell from the class of 2025, who's also a Washington commit, finished 2nd overall in that race. He actually entered the season as the #1 recruit on my list, particularly due to his versatility, but also because of the national record that he already has to his name. So that particular race put a lot of things into perspective, because you had top recruits who were all distinguished in their own right. And the athlete who I thought was supposed to be in the front was in the front. The only thing I couldn't account for was the athlete who doesn't compete for an American high school who also showed up in the race. And that's exactly how it's going to be in the NCAA. It's why many of the best high school athletes don't immediately dominate the moment they hit that level. And it's also why my ranking scale is designed to make it really hard to be a 5-star. Because if you are, you're supposed to be able to win things at that level the moment you get in the uniform. But there was another high school boy who was invited to compete on that stage. It was Jake Odie Jordan in the men's 300. They invited him to compete in the pro section, even though he's from the class of 2026. But he entered this season as a 5-star recruit on my list and a 92 overall rating. That said, he did not win the race. He actually finished in last place. But that doesn't really matter as much, because he still ran fast for a high school kid. It would have been one of the top 10 fastest high school times ever recorded up until this point in the season. And it wasn't even a season best for Jake Odie Jordan. I consider his performance to be an eye-opener, because we see what Quincy Wilson pulled off in the 400. And I do believe some people take it for granted, because that is not normal. Jake Odie Jordan is incredibly fast. It's why he was at the World Juniors for the 200-meter dash and got a bronze medal while he was there. That's a competition for athletes who are under the age of 20, and he's a high school junior right now. And when he lined up next to the pros, it was clear that there are levels to this, and I fully expect him to come back even faster through the remainder of the season. The biggest problem that high school track and field recruits continue to face is the ability to properly evaluate themselves against everybody else. Because if you're competing for a spot on a college program, especially if you want scholarship dollars, you have to win that spot ahead of somebody else. And the somebody else is not just the other kids in the lanes that you see at your state meet. It's everybody in the nation and everyone beyond that. The new Balance Indoor Grand Prix put that on blast, because the best athletes in college are already Olympians, some of which went to the games and then came back to college again. So keep in mind that if you really want to be the best, you're going to have to go out there and beat the best. And if you're not exactly on the same track with those athletes, like they gave us a little taste of it at the New Balance Grand Prix, the leaderboards still work on World Athletics. You can see who's the fastest kids under the age of 18. That'll give you an idea of most of the names that you're going to have to figure out how to beat once you get to the next level. Because trust me, the college coaches in D1, especially at the highest level, they don't care where the talent is. They just want to know how to find it. Hopefully, a lot of it. And fortunately, New Balance gave us a glimpse of who those athletes actually are. You actually made it all the way to the end of this video. I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore, because you are a real one. And if you want more from me beyond this video, on scarecruiting.com, you can get a ton of resources, like my free recruiting guide, online courses, and much more, including the option to meet with me one-on-one, where my specialty is helping you figure out which schools might actually be the best fit for you. And if nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.